Better unmute my mic here.
There you go.
Well, good. I guess good evening, everyone. We're here today with Ron Wyatt from Franklin County Sheriff's Department, and you are currently the jail administrator. Is that correct?
That's right. That's what they call me at the moment.
Pull the mic a little closer, Ron.
Yeah, bring it on up there.
There we go.
Awesome. I guess the Franklin County Sheriff's Department is going to take over the jail until after the election and a new jailer is that position going to be appointed?
You know, I've not been told exactly how long I'll be there. I know that there's a primary election in May and a general in November, so I would assume I'll be there until one of those events happen.
And yeah, I'd even think even if it's an unopposed jailer's race, it's not official till the November election. But
you know what? That's a little above my pay grade.
Me too.
Mine too. And
I don't know how that works.
I've had a lot of people ask, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah. So what precipitated you coming there, Ron, or the sheriff's office, not department, sheriff's office, taking over the jail or managing the jail?
Well, a little bit of that is over my head, but from where I sit, I believe that, I know Jailer Bonner retired, and he had his time in, and he went on and retired, and the county judge elected to ask the sheriff to take over the jail until an election could occur to replace the former jailer.
And Sheriff Quire asked you to be the jail administrator?
Yes. He knew that I'd worked there for about 5 years, from 2017 till 2022, and he asked me if I would go out there, and I said I would.
The most logical choice in the sheriff's office.
Well, I guess so.
We hope so anyway.
Yeah.
Well, we had lunch the other day and just talked about a few things. And one of the easiest questions I asked, it says Franklin County Regional Jail. Yet, are we really a regional jail? Because I couldn't find any official designation on any of the Department of Corrections map where we were really a regional jail.
I don't think we meet the definition of a regional jail at this time. I think in the past we may have, and it would have been prior to 2011 or earlier. But I don't think right now we hold Franklin County inmates, we hold state inmates, and we have a contract with the federal government to hold inmates. We don't have any federal inmates at this moment, but we do occasionally have them.
And federal inmates really help the budget, correct?
They do if you can get them. You know, we renegotiated a contract that hadn't been touched in 30 years, got the daily fee up to $55 a day, and then the inmates all kind of went somewhere else. So I don't know exactly why that happened.
Yeah. So people don't really know, I think, how the jail's funded. Could you talk about, when you say $30 a day or $55 a day, how that helps the budget out?
Well, there's different types of inmates. So there's Franklin County inmates that are the responsibility of fiscal court, or inmates that have been arrested and charged with crimes, but they have not yet been to trial or have not yet been sentenced. So that burden is fully on fiscal court. So those guys and gals don't pay anything. The fiscal court pays everything to house them. There are other inmates that are Class Ds and Cs, which are state inmates that are convicted of lower-level felonies, mostly nonviolent, and they're required to do time in local facilities. So those inmates generate $35 a day per inmate that the state pays the county to house them.
And that hasn't changed in probably decades either, has it?
Certainly not in my memory, and I've been around a little over 32 years, so I don't believe it's changed in a long time. There's some pending litigation with other jails. Marion County, I know, is a party to the lawsuit against DOC, Department of Corrections, where they want the per diems to be renegotiated, and there's some other issues in there about classification that would speed up things on the county side.
So there's no cost of living adjustments, no inflation adjustments?
No.
That regularly come?
No, not in anybody's recent memory. It's at least 20 years or so that there's been any.
So if we can count on 30 or 20 years of $35 a day and account for inflation, you're probably about half of what you should be getting.
I think that's a fair assessment.
I mean, if you look at the cost, I mean, you got to give pay raises, utilities go up, everything goes up, food goes
Cost of
up,
everything goes up. That's for sure.
but yet you don't get compensated anymore.
No, you $35 a day.
And that might be why all our jails are always need more money.
Right.
Yeah, constantly.
Well, and that's the thing, because you and I have talked about the millions of dollars that Franklin County puts into, or I guess it's fiscal court, puts into the jail every year. And a lot of people, including myself, we see that number and we don't know why that number is there. Okay, if you haven't been compensated in over 20 years for any kind of cost adjustment at all, that would be a huge problem in and of itself. Then you take into, and then I guess another portion that we're paying for our responsibility is those people who have not yet been charged.
Yes.
Those are our county, those are our citizens, basically,
Right.
that our county is responsible for. So that makes sense that would be an expense for our county to cover. It's not like Shelby County or somebody sending a bunch of inmates over there for us to take care of, because those would be compensated for, correct?
If we were to hold inmates for another county, and occasionally we do, they do pay.
Okay.
Every now and then we'll have a special circumstance where there is a conflict in our jail and we need to move an inmate to another county. And most of the time we can work that out where we don't have to pay because we do the same thing in return for them. It's kind of a professional courtesy.
Right.
But an analogy that I would use for the jail is, if you take a bus from Frankfort to, let's say, Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
it costs the same to drive that bus regardless of how many people are on it. So we have about 100 and, let's see, I want to get the number right, 128 as of just a few minutes ago, county inmates out of our total population of 227 today. 128 of those are fiscal court's sole responsibility. So we have to do something with those folks. So if they're on the bus going to California, it costs the same. And if we can add a few more passengers, such as state inmates, and reduce the loss, is the way that I look at it. We're not really, you do generate some revenue, but you're never going to generate enough revenue to pay for it itself.
Right. I'm gonna throw a question in there that we hadn't previously talked about. If we don't have a jail in those, you said 127?
128.
128.
128, yeah. That varies from 100, could be 125, could be 150 at any given time.
And we had to put those 128 in Shelby County. Say we didn't have a jail. Would Shelby County be compensated for that?
We would have to enter into a contract with someone, but I think what is most important to keep in mind is there is not a facility that can take another 150 inmates, which is what we would kind of have to base our number on the high side. There's just not one around here that we could contract with because there's no facility that is capable of holding them.
But say if there was, if you enter in a contract, who would pay that other jail that doesn't exist, that doesn't have the capacity? But if there were, who would pay for those inmates? Would that be us?
Well, it would still be fiscal court would still
Okay.
have to pay. So I would use Shelby County as an example. Shelby holds Anderson County inmates. They have the two counties have entered into a contract, and the Anderson County pays a per diem to Shelby each day or they don't pay it each day, but I mean they pay
Probably
for
monthly.
Yeah.
So
And the importance of that question is to say, if they go somewhere else, that cost doesn't necessarily leave. It's still a burden on our county.
you're always going to be on the hook for the county inmates.
Whether you're investing it in your own building or if you're investing it in a different facility.
Absolutely, that's correct.
Well, speaking of facilities, it's been years ago that I started hearing about replacing our jail. It's built in 1986, and I know there's been a lot of problems with water leaks and just general maintenance like you would on any kind of building. I heard replacement cost for our building would be about what? What have you heard?
Well, there's not a lot of new jails being built, so as you can imagine, they're very expensive. To my knowledge, the most recently built jail in Kentucky is Oldham County, which is a very, very nice facility. It's state of the art. I believe it's about 4 years old at approximately $30 million.
So that was pre-coronavirus, pre-inflation.
Yes, pre-COVID.
So would it be out of reach saying it would be 45 or 50 million?
I mean, I don't think anybody can say for sure, but nobody's going to say no way it won't cost $50 million. It'll be less than that. I don't think you can say that. So
Yeah,
I've done IT work in that jail. It's
in Oldham County.
yeah, it is a nice facility. I mean, they definitely have much new, much more state of the art.
and funded by a federal grant, I might add. So that wasn't Oldham County tax dollars, or not totally anyway.
So could Franklin County? You said it was a federal grant,
Yes,
the Federal Department of Corrections grant, I guess.
I would say Department of Justice or something like that. I couldn't tell you exactly the source, but it's probably DOJ.
So if our fiscal court, if it was determined through whoever the next jailer is, through all the numbers and everything, they would go that route trying to get federal help to replace the jail. But I'm sure all the jails are trying that, right?
Sure. I mean, there's every county in Kentucky faces the same issue. The jail is kind of a drain on the county budget. It doesn't really generate any revenue. No good news comes out of a jail. Nobody really wants to spend money on a jail. If you had surplus, I would rather spend it. Most people would rather spend it on a school or some other way to benefit the public. So a jail is just kind of a necessary function of the county government.
Right, here's another question I asked the last two jailers because I just really didn't understand. You're from Pike County, or you're from Manchester, and you get arrested on a charge here, and you get convicted and serve 6 months. What happens? What does that inmate do when their 6 months is up? Just walk out the door. Is what I.
You mean if they serve?
They've completed their
sentence?
term, yeah.
Yeah, they're just going to be released. Yeah.
And what if they don't have a ride back to Pike County or Manchester?
Hate that for you. I don't know what to say. Exactly. There's no mechanism to get them back where they came from.
That's what I was trying
Now
to.
it's different with state inmates. If you're a state inmate and you're released from custody, you're going to be taken to the Greyhound bus station, and a ticket will be bought in your name, and we will watch you get on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, you're not going to get a whole lot of assistance with.
So does that? I mean, it sounds like to me we could be. I mean, I could just be reaching out, just off the wall stuff, but we could be importing criminals if they don't have a way to get out of Franklin County and go back where they were.
You mean I might have not totally understood the question. If a person comes from another county and does jail time here, it would have to be on a Franklin County charge,
You're right.
or they'd have to be a state inmate. So if they're here on a Franklin County charge, they're a Franklin County inmate no matter where they're from. If they're here on a state charge and they need assistance getting home, they can get a bus ticket. So
we can help them get a bus ticket back
the state
home.
does. That's part of the
State
one of the
does.
things that they
Okay.
do. Yes.
Yeah, I've always wondered that. If you're from out of town, you come in here to buy drugs or something to take back to your home county, but you're caught by our local Leos. Then you serve your time here. You serve your time out. Then what do they do?
Well, you're still a state inmate at that point, so the state would buy
State
you a
would
bus
get you
ticket.
back. Okay. Yeah, that was always just kind of wonderment of mine.
Like you done your time, just you get off
Yeah.
one.
See
Well,
ya.
I think in years past that may have been the case. It's always
Yeah.
it's always what I've heard. So I don't know.
Oh,
Predates me. That's prior to 1991. So
yeah. So we're just
Just take a right, keep walking. At the next road, take a left.
that's right.
stick your thumb out, and aren't there signs on a coffee tree that says "Don't pick up any"?
Yes, I think they're still
Hitchhikers.
there. I haven't been down Glens Creek in a
Yeah,
while.
I
but
think
they're
it's
actually
still
up
there. Yeah, I always laugh when I see that.
That's good advice.
Yeah, it's a big old sign. Don't pick up any hitchhikers.
Beware.
Yeah. You want?
Well, I wasn't paying attention when you were talking earlier on those next questions after the cost.
The staffing.
Yeah, well, there were some that wasn't going to be discussed.
Oh, are we critically understaffed? The one above that, I don't want to
Now
ask.
we're critically understaffed. I don't mind saying that. I don't want to give out too much on our daily operations just for safety and security of everybody.
Right.
But I will say that the number one issue facing the jail and every other issue pretty much that comes out of there is directly related to staffing. We're critically shorthanded. We oftentimes have people working 16 hours a day. We pay a lot of overtime, and we people can not only sustain that for so long, and we wear out our good staff, and sometimes they just quit. They've had enough. So we have got to really focus on staffing. The turnover rate is high. I asked my training officer recently to just go back over the last 18 months and look at training records. We've trained a little over 150 people. We got about 15 of those still with us.
And so do they go work in other counties that?
Some people figure out that this is just not for them, and that's totally understandable. It's a very difficult and thankless job. But some people, I think we can look in the database and see all the corrections officers in the state, and I know that at least 3 of them are at Oldham County, where they make $5 more an hour.
Right, and yeah. So,
and it's not that bad of a drive for, if you think about that, for an increase of benefit and pay.
Yeah, that's $5 an hour. That's a lot of money.
What's your complement of staff?
We are authorized at 48.
And we have
probably, I would say right now, about 34. Actually, we lost one today, so we'd be at 33. I have 3 in training, so I don't count them yet to make sure that they're going to make it.
So we need, not only we need more staff for the safety of escapes or something, I guess, but we need it for the safety of the staff inside the jail.
Sure, and the
The
safety
more
of the
numbers.
other inmates. We're responsible for the care and custody and control of all these folks. It's our job to keep them safe just as much as it is us. And we still have to carry out the functions of the jail. People have to be fed. Dishes have to be washed. If we make 750 meals a day and distribute that to people, then we got to wash 750 dishes, plus the prep. So there's a lot that goes into what
Got your
goes
own
on.
little mini restaurant in there.
I always describe it as like it's in a Navy ship. There's always something that needs to be cleaned or fixed, or there's a constant maintenance, and you have to provide all the essential needs provide for all the essential needs for the inmate.
Yeah, Judge Mueller said in the last fiscal court meeting that noted that you leaned over to him and said, "We're starting cleaning tomorrow."
Yes. So
on your first day.
I think, how to put this into words, when the jail is dirty and things are broken, it's an indication that the inmates are running the place. And when it's clean and things are fixed, it's an indication that the staff's running the place. And we are critically short-staffed. We are getting out of that a little bit. We've increased training, which is one of the reasons that I think we were having a lot of turnover. And we have begun to slow the turnover. So now that we got a little chance to breathe, we can get away from doing just the basics. Now we're doing some of the stuff that we should have been doing, cleaning and stuff like that. It's just when you get down to the critical level of staffing that we were, the things that get done are the things that absolutely have to be done. And those things that don't absolutely have to be done don't get done.
Yeah, they're just put off to another day.
We continually pull people from other jobs. We talked about the difference between secure side staff and admin staff, but that is a little bit it's not quite fair, because the admin staff spends just about as much time on the secure side, because they come in early, they stay late, they work through their lunch, they work on their day off to cover holes in the schedule. So that's how we've been able to get by.
So what you've got, the staff that are now, they're pretty darn dedicated to the jail and to Franklin County.
Our admin staff, our seasoned people that have been there 5 to 10 years, which is maybe about 14, they are, yes, very dedicated. The secure side staff is also dedicated, but they're very young. We may have a shift of 5 people or more with combined experience of 5 years. So, we just don't have a lot of experience. We have a lot of young staff.
Well, one thing, the salaries of the staff, I heard in the meeting that there's like 17 an hour, but the state average is around 25. So if you train these officers, like you got 3 in training, and we're paying them to go training, right?
Yes, they get 2 weeks of training. It's a mix of classroom and hands-on, but they're TASER certified, they're pepper spray certified, they are checked out on every duty station. So we spend 80 hours of time training them when they're only required to do 16.
Okay, and then once they're trained up and get a little bit of experience under their belt, they could get on that website or whatever you're talking about and see openings around Kentucky, and we could lose them. We could
Sure. Just in our an easy driving distance, Woodford County is over $20 an hour. I think Oldham County's 22. Clark County's over 20. Pretty much everybody around us pays at least $1 an hour more than we do. When you look at the state prison system, they were dealing with a lot of turnover. They've got their starting pay up to $25.46 an hour.
Good.
In addition to night supplement and weekend supplement. So if you're working a night shift weekend at state prison, you might be making $30 an hour. And, you know, our staff has got to look at that and think, you know, that's nearly double.
Right, that's a good salary.
You're right down the road from several state facilities. You have some in Lexington, some in LaGrange. You got Pee Wee Valley. It's all close by.
And you know, that's such a disparity in differences, because I look at it as, if I'm working a lot of overtime, my overtime is equaling regular time at some other facility.
Yes.
Like, why am I going to work twice as hard to not do any better?
I think that's a reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. So fiscal court, we're going to have to do better.
Yeah, we don't, because I remember, you know, in the sheriff's office, we get some guys trained, then they go work at another sheriff's office,
I mean,
and we were a training ground
yes.
for other agencies.
You're always competing for the same people. It takes a special person to be a corrections officer. It is a difficult job. You're in direct, close contact with inmates in large groups, maybe as many as 20 or more. You don't have a gun. You don't have any other people with you. It's just you and them. So the people that can successfully do that, that's kind of a small pool of people. And everybody in Kentucky and around the United States, honestly, is competing for them. You know, there's everywhere you go, there's vacancies in corrections. But, you know, people understand that you have to compete, and our starting pay is pretty low.
So starting pay in 2010 in the sheriff's office is really low, and it's been worked up with the help of fiscal court. So we could get fiscal court to step up here if I'm sure you all have talked to them about raising your pay and hiring more people if they're available. But if you raise the pay, you might get more people available. It's not kind of a big circle jerk. You got to get the first domino to fall.
We need to retain the good ones that we have and to keep them from going other places and to get some longevity. You know, one of the things that's really shifted is there's not hazardous duty retirement at the jail. So the benefits, I do think the benefits are pretty good. That's one of the things we advertise when we're talking, because I think fiscal court has done a good job on our insurance, and we've actually had people come from other jails because our insurance was better, and we're trying to compete, you know, every way we can. But you have to look at the surrounding counties that are dealing with this, and when they're putting money up like what they are, it makes it tough for us. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, benefits only go so far. I mean, especially when you're younger people and you're raising a family or trying to start a family.
Right.
You know, good insurance doesn't pay the bills.
Doesn't buy diapers and milk.
That's right.
So.
And a lot of people don't take into account the cost of overturn or turnover and attrition.
Yes.
You know, you've got that time to. Not only do you have time spent to train and money spent to train, but when you're talking about, you know, a 5-person shift having a combined experience of 5 years, that's kind of scary. They have no friends on the secure side of the jail except
Right.
each other, you know.
Right.
And I think it's critical that they be trained and have experience and not be tired from working all this overtime.
There's a lot of ways to make mistakes in
Yes.
corrections, and when you're tired,
15 hours into a
And-
16-hour shift
Yes.
for the third day in a row.
and it's just a very chaotic. It can be very chaotic. You know, we try to get on a routine and stick to it because that makes things run smoothly. But sometimes it's hard to do. And if you have younger, inexperienced employees, they're dedicated. They come to work. They work hard. They work long hours. They work their days off. But we're not really setting them up for success because, like, for example, just on a release on bond paperwork, if that duty station, that person will be in the middle of bond paperwork, and then they'll have to go do a critical observation because we have someone on suicide watch or because we often have someone in detox. So there's jail standards that require us to do rounds or observations, every so often. So every 15 minutes or every 20 minutes or every 10 minutes, he or she's got to stop whatever it is they're doing, go do an observation, and then come back. And then if you're already tired, it's kind of setting you up to fail. There's a lot of opportunities to miss something, forget where you left off, pick up somewhere. So
And we don't want people making mistakes.
No.
Not in that job.
no, it could be bad.
And that's why we need to up the pay and get more staff on, which is gonna, I guess, boil down to, since the jail is a partial moneymaker, meaning it offsets some of its costs. Fiscal court has to, I mean, from knowing you and knowing other deputies and knowing the jailers, it's a big problem.
Sure. I will say this: the fiscal court has been, since I've been there, has been very responsive. We've had lots of good discussions. They have 3 magistrates have spent an extensive amount of time at the jail, inside it, seeing how the workflow is, seeing the facility issues in person. So it's not, we're not just talking about some abstract. They've actually seen it. The county judge has been there multiple times.
That's good.
We've done some exchange with another county jail. Marion County is about the same size as as us, same population. That jailer Brady down there has been in office a little over 20 years. I think he's got county jailing figured out. So we've been able to learn from him a little bit, and so I do think that they're engaged. But I mean, we have to hire good people and retain them. That every other issue from the jail flows from that.
How's the maintenance of the jail? I remember reading there was water issues before, and there's been HVAC issues and different things. And I know you've mentioned that y'all have retained somebody that's really a pretty good fit. He takes a lot of pride in his work.
Our maintenance director he's a star. He's been great. He takes, if there's anything in that jail broken, he takes it personally. He fixes something every day. So that's been really good. We have an aging facility. It's built in 1986. It was state of the art then, I suppose, but the water system is not the best. With an aging facility like that, unless you want to build a new one, which we just talked about how expensive that would be,
Right.
You really have to maintain this one. So that's been a big priority for the sheriff. He understands how important that is, and he wants the equipment to be maintained properly. So that's been a big focus. We've fixed a lot of water issues in the last little bit. We got some more to deal with. It's worth noting, I like to say, that this is not like maintaining an elementary school. Okay, some of the inmates in there are there to do their time and go home, but some of them spend a lot of their time deliberately trying to break stuff, trying to tear things up. Mm-hmm. And over the years, it's a constant battle.
I think a couple of jailers ago, he prepared a list of items that needed to be taken care of. I know you haven't been the jail administrator very long at all, but is that something your maintenance leader would compile a list of stuff and y'all just start checking them off, like a checklist when you're building a house?
Of course, we have to work within our budget. I'll just tell you, we're 25% through the year, and we're about 98-point-something% through the maintenance budget. So that's going to have to be addressed. Everything that we're not talking about wants. We're talking about needs, things that need to be fixed.
Right. Yeah.
So we're working on that. But we have earlier today. Let me back up a little bit. The sheriff has asked us to come up with our top 5 or 6 things. So working with our maintenance director, we came up with our top 6 things that need to be fixed, that are kind of a priority. The Sally Port has not worked now in about 8 or 9 weeks, and it's got to be fixed. I did learn today that our parts have come in, and that'll be fixed Friday if that all goes well. So that was number 1. Second thing is the showers are just not suitable. We've been dinged in our jail inspection. We get 2 jail inspections a year, and we just had our second unannounced, which we did really good on overall, but they dinged us pretty hard on the showers. So we're going to have to look at that. We need to have something that is safe, that it's easy to clean, and that is not what we have now is just really unacceptable.
So like the flooring. Would you
Yeah.
replace that in the walls?
Yes, you need to have corrections quality equipment in there, so we would have to rebuild the pan and use a different type of cement. And the maintenance director can really explain this better than me, but in other places we've seen they use an epoxy coating on the walls that is much easier to keep clean. You know, we have big cells, unlike some other jails. In 1986, that's how they built jails. In 1997, they learned that smaller cells are better. So those jails that are built around then have about 10 people per housing area. Ours and the larger groups are going to have closer to 30.
Mm.
So you got 30 people using 2 showers. You can imagine what that looks like.
And with the inspections, do they do follow-up inspections? Like,
Yes.
you get this repaired, and is that you all working with fiscal court again?
Yes,
I mean,
we'll have to. The jail inspector is employed by DOC. He sends us the results of our inspection with what he believes needs to be fixed immediately, and he gives us time to work with that. Fiscal court also gets a copy of that, and we will work with them to address every one of those, whatever the findings are. I haven't seen the final report, just the preliminary. I know we're going to need to work on the showers. Whatever comes in, we will address that immediately.
Could the county get in trouble for not meeting the DOC needs?
If you show deliberate indifference, yes. DOC understands that we have an aging facility too, and we are not going to be held to the standard of the Oldham County Jail, which is brand new. But there is a minimum standard regardless of the age of your facility. Ours is not the oldest jail. If you look at Bell County's jail, it's a lot older than ours. But they're making the standard. So if they can do it, we can do it.
Is it specialized? Like, could me and Eric, our plumbing company, come in and do it, or is it a specialized company that has to come in that's worked on other jails and knows what to do? And
It's not necessarily other jail experience, but it would be large fiscal plants like factories, like schools, as I think is a good comparison. But it doesn't have to be corrections specific.
Gotcha. So the if the inspector says that you need to get this fixed, what they fine or
they will give us a finding and they'll tell us what needs to be fixed, and they'll give us an opportunity to respond about how we're going to fix it and give them a timeline, and then they'll let us know whether that's acceptable or not. And if they do accept it, then we go forward and make the changes. And that's what we've always done in the past. Both the jailers that I worked for, they anytime there was a finding from DOC, they immediately took whatever corrective action was necessary. And that's if you fix one thing in an inspection, they're probably going to find something else. That's their job. So I expect as long as we're in this position that we'll be getting some some findings, and we'll have to take care of them.
right. It's like anything. If they're not having findings, then I'm sure that their superiors wonder, well, what kind of inspections are you doing?
We have a great jail inspector. In my first week, he came out and met me in person. We exchanged phone numbers. He's been a resource. Any questions that I've had, he's been great to work with. Helped me on policy and procedure and just anything that I need. And any issue that we've had, we've been able to work through. So,
well, before, I remember a couple of jailers ago, I remember reading like the jail budget was $4 point something million. And then I read an article in February of 2023 that the previous jailer asked for a $500,000 increase to get us to around 5.3, but it's not quite that high, correct?
I pulled the numbers before I came. It's about 5.1 something. I wasn't expecting to be in this situation, so I didn't pay as close of attention to some of that. But I don't want to blame everything on COVID, but everything went up. Cost of everything went up.
Right.
Cost of food went crazy.
I can attest to that.
So, yes.
Right.
So, just everything is more expensive, and I think that's kind of where that comes from.
I don't think any of us escaped COVID without an increase.
No, I'm sure your stuff's gone up too
Yes.
because of scarcity and
Right.
all that stuff. So.
Heck, just running your average family household.
Yeah. Well, our food costs.
Everybody's.
Our food costs at Da Vinci's are many items are up over 100%.
Sure. Yep. Same here.
Many are over 100%, and about all of them are over 50.
And most of that, a lot of that comes down to the same problem that he's having at the jail. Not enough people to do the work to produce the product.
Well, that and high gas prices.
Well, high gas
inflation,
prices and-
you know, everything runs in a truck.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
so so if it's 5.1 million, I remember when 2 jailers ago, I'm not using names or nothing.
I understand. Sure.
Yeah, 2 jailers ago, the county was having to supplement $3 million of his $4 million budget. He worked really hard over 4 years, adding all kinds of things that the inmates could buy. Because I remember him saying, "What was it? A happy inmate is a good inmate, or something. But if you keep them mentally occupied, it's less trouble for the
Keeps the drama down.
the
yes.
deputy jailers." Yeah. So he brought in iPads, food, bakery goods, up the commissary, things that they could purchase. And one thing I know really brought in a lot of money was e-cigs,
Yes, it was a moneymaker.
and a pretty good moneymaker from what
About
he,
$110,000 a year, approximately, if I remember right.
yeah. And for some reason, not this fiscal court, but another fiscal court said no more. I cannot
yeah.
understand that, because it's a jail. 80% of them are in there on drugs, and they're worried about an e-cigarette.
Well, it's my understanding of that is that there was a county ordinance passed to make all county-owned properties tobacco or smoke-free, and that included the jail and the e-cigs.
So they didn't make an exception for that, because it is a money generator and saving the taxpayers a lot of money, six-digit money.
There was no exemption for the.
You think that's something we could revisit?
Well, I mean, we somewhat have
Because it keeps
revisited.
inmates calm, right?
It does. It does. What we have now are nicotine pouches
Mm-hmm.
they don't violate the ordinance, and they're just literally a pouch with nicotine in it, and that's been back for about a month. That's going to generate, I believe, around $5,000 or $6,000 a month.
So about $60,000 a year.
Yes.
So we could possibly double it, because really, if it's a nicotine thing, Eric used to dip.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different delivery system, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still getting the same nicotine, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, but smokers like to smoke. And
I mean, they like to keep things. If you got things fiddling in your hands,
it's as much of a physical habit as it is a chemical addiction.
yeah. I'm just, we're transit. We've got a lot of facts out of the jail. There's good things that we could do with the jail, and there's good things that the jail does with the community, and there's
Yeah.
good things you all do for them to reduce the recidivism rate. So that's a big topic.
Sure.
But we got we got about a half hour left, and can we talk about some of the programs that?
Sure. So we already talked about not any good news comes out of a jail, and that's generally true. But there's some things that do come out of the jail that are good, that are probably just kind of behind the scenes stuff. Our Class D program, which is our state inmates that are low-level offenders that can work in the community, they are involved in several places, particularly the senior center. There are 6 inmates there, and there are 2 paid employees. So the inmates are making a lot of the food. They're doing the maintenance. They're doing the cut the grass, whatever needs to be done there. So they really help with senior center. We have a community services crew that mows 16 different nonprofits properties. They do snow removal. Some of that is county government, but some of it is other stuff. And they do other jobs as needed. In the past week or so, they've moved furniture for the health department during their remodeling. They've done painting. They've done work for the Humane Society. So they're kind of a jack of all trades crew, whatever they need to do. And they stay busy. As the weather gets colder, it winds down a little bit. But in the summer, they stay slammed on mowing and things like that. So that's some good things that we're already doing. And some things that I think we should look at would be, in the past, we've had a big Class D program when those inmates were available. And
Can you explain that more in detail?
So that is, the Class D inmates could be housed in our dorm. We have a dorm that pre-COVID had about 100 people in it. And those people were working in the community at various different places, all nonprofits. They were a lot of state government. You would see them on the guardrail crew, the county road crew, the state road crew, sanitation, a lot of different places. So COVID happened, and we were shut down. and we have not really recovered from that. So we closed the dorm down completely, and that was a pretty big revenue producer. So now it's just empty. It's empty. So
Is it in pretty good shape?
it is. It would take a little bit to get it back ready to house inmates, but I won't think a whole lot. So the big demand now would be for substance abuse prevention program and SOAR, which is a reintegration program. These are programs recognized by the state, and inmates that are doing time can get time off their sentence by completing these processes. These programs. They go in phases. You know, there's phases of the SAP program, and then once you finish SAP, you can graduate to SOAR, and there's phases of SOAR, and then once you graduate from that, you can get time off your sentence for both programs.
Are there parenting classes also?
We offer parenting classes. They were teaching the men's parenting class today, or that was yesterday, but yes. Yeah, we do offer things like that. And a lot of county jails don't because they're not required to, but we have a contract with an instructor, and we do parenting classes, we do anger management, we have AA, NA, we have church services, we have GED. We're very successful with the GED program with Thornhill. They are good partners. We used to have the highest rate, and that may still be true, of graduation for GED.
You mentioned the Class D program was a good money maker. Mm-hmm. So when the inmates are out doing work for people, they pay the jail for that time, or how does that work?
The state continues to pay us $35 a day per state inmate. But when we have those work crews, we can put them out in the community rather than just have that person lay in a cell and wait to get out of jail in 18 to 24 months. They're actually out in the community. The inmate gets paid by the state. I don't know what it is. It's very low. It's $1 or something a day. But the community benefits from the free labor. They work at Lakeview Park. They work at in the past, they worked at tourism. They worked at the 701 office building. We still continue to work at Surplus. I'm trying to think of all the places.
So they're working at places that are, I guess the easiest way to say it, they're tax funded, businesses or entities in the county. The parks, the Humane Society.
But yeah, they couldn't work for you and me though. Not like that. It's
it has to be a
nonprofit. Yeah, it's got to be a nonprofit. And if you get the Class D dorm open, do you have enough staff to, like me and Eric we're always talking about cleaning up Frankfort. It was a pretty good topic at the last DIG meeting. At the developer interest group. We had the city and county planning director there, and a lot of the members talking about cleaning up Frankfort, the same stuff that we've been talking about. Right. I think the word is getting around. All the videos were posted.
I was say I think people are paying more attention to how bad some of our areas look.
And I'm wanting to get the Great Wall of Frankfort cleaned up. We've talked about that.
We went out and looked at it. I'm not sure who owns that, but I know that's being looked at. So.
But at least there's something happening with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe some accidental oil spill and a fire over there or something.
No, we don't want a fire.
Not by the Thorntons.
Yeah. No. But another thing that a lot of people complimented or talked about that we've done is the weeds growing in our main thoroughfares coming into Frankfort. Like exit 53, 127. Everybody going to Buffalo, or I'd say the vast majority of people coming to Buffalo Trace come in there. All our legislators mostly come that road. Our tourists that go downtown come in that road, especially from the west side of Kentucky. And so there's been some efforts. Penny Peevler's worked with some people to get some areas cleaned up. And we talked about, could we use inmate labor to not only clean up the Great Wall of Frankfort, but, there's on some of the light poles at the stop signs, there's some weeds, some bushes that have grown up that wouldn't take probably 20 minutes to clear out. But I was told Joe Citizen here is not allowed to do that. But I believe they're on. I don't know I don't know the definition. I think you're looking this up. If it's on state right of way, but it's still somebody's property, can you all work on that without knowing the definition?
I know that we can work on any nonprofit, including state and county government property. So before we did anything on a I can't say that word, specific property, we would have to know for sure because we don't want to
Or
violate
get
the rules.
permission? Or no,
No, if it's
permission wouldn't
private
even
property,
matter.
it's just not
Yeah.
something that's legal.
But the roadways, like the East-West Connector
I would assume that is legal.
and the Thornhill Bypass, Wilkinson Boulevard, all of that stuff, because the weeds are, some of them are at least a foot. I'm not exaggerating, right there.
Oh, at
They're a
least.
foot above the concrete
I start calling
barrier.
it Wilkinson Trail because
And-
it's like you're going down a wild
because,
trail.
Yeah, and because they're woody type plants,
Right.
not just green.
I drive it every day. I know.
Yeah,
that. I see it.
they'll be there next spring. They
pretty
won't.
hardy.
Yeah, they won't rot.
Yeah, it's not like grass.
And
It
then
won't-
next year they might be 3 foot over the wall. Who knows?
who knows?
But is that some things you're looking at to maybe use the jail staff, not jail staff, the inmate labor to help beautify Frankfort?
Sure. We want to be as much of a resource as possible. We don't want to just be a drain.
Do you all get a lot of calls for that?
We get a lot of calls for help from nonprofits. That crew stays busy. It's usually got a supervisor, our staff person who's the supervisor, and 4 inmates on it, and they stay pretty busy. There's not a lot of downtime for them.
And I'm assuming fiscal court calls you, or can the city call out to the jail? Because it's, yeah.
Now, who makes it? Okay, you get 15 phone calls. You've got enough people to do 13 jobs. Who makes the decision which 13 of those 15 requests?
Well, the crew leader, the guy that runs that crew, he's been doing it a long time. He's pretty good at getting everybody in. We don't, if it's illegal for us to do it, we really don't turn too many people away, honestly, because when the weather slows down and it gets colder, that gives us time to do some of the inside stuff. We've done some painting for nonprofits, and pretty much you name it, anything moved, we move everybody. It seems like,
But y'all work in 40-degree weather, right?
these guys work hard.
Yeah.
You mentioned nonprofit, and the ones that I were talking about earlier were government, like parks, that type of thing. Can any nonprofit, whether private or government, benefit from that?
Yes.
Like if I own a nonprofit,
Yep, if it's a nonprofit, if it's like the women's shelter or something like that.
it doesn't have
yes.
to be a government
No, it does not.
facility or whatever.
No, it does not.
Well, if we could get the, my ask, of course, East-West Connector and Wilkinson Boulevard looked at, I think the public at large would, and it would be a positive that's noticed by the citizens of the jail. Everybody thinks negative of the jail and the people in it, but the jail can do good things too. And maybe it will instill some pride in some of the inmates that live here, and they can see that good is being done and they are appreciated.
Sure. We're pretty careful about having inmates from here that work here. Generally, we don't do that. We bring people in from outside. Just
Also, like a local inmate, you wouldn't have them on
No, they would be
a
doing
road
their-
crew or nothing?
No, they'd either be inside the secure side or they'd be at another jail if they're working.
What?
Oh, okay.
It's a security thing.
Do you transport them back and forth every day, or is that just?
Some we transport, and some the nonprofits transport themselves. So it just depends.
Oh, and they get training for that, I guess.
Yes, you have to go through our whole training program about inmate manipulation and all the regulations that what you can and can't do with Class D inmates. So
And examples being you can't buy them Cokes,
you're not supposed to.
can't buy them food because y'all send them out with lunch,
We
correct?
feed them. Yep,
Yeah.
we feed them.
Can't buy them batteries.
I feel pretty sure they eat good at the Senior Citizen Center. So
I bet they do, especially since they're making it. I bet they eat really well. Are they gaining weight? Maybe.
well, I hate to point that out.
Well,
to
yeah.
everybody,
So, if they got an extra biscuit at the senior citizens place, I don't think anybody would. Well, I won't say anybody. There's a lot of people who complain about a lot of dumb stuff, but by and large, I don't have a problem with them getting a biscuit that somebody offers them or whatever.
There's got to be some incentive for these.
But we could do more. We being the jail, you being
Well,
the jail.
we could. I
if
think
you had more staff.
If we had more staff, I think what I would really want to do, I think that my opinion what would benefit Franklin County the most would be the SAP program and the SOAR program, and to reopen the dorm and to get those programs going, because that gets people out of custody, and it also, it prepares them better for life after jail.
Right.
If we don't prepare them, there's a pretty high recidivism rate anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But if we just, warehouse them, and then when their time's up, kick them to the curb, that's great. We give you a bus ticket home, but you're just going to get right back in trouble if you haven't changed your ways, if you haven't learned a new skill, if you haven't gotten your GED, some of the things that you need to do to change your path.
Right. And people were built to serve and to do. And I think people who work are happier people.
Sure.
If you're productive in some kind of way, even when you're an inmate, you're contributing in some way. It has to be mentally better for at least most of them.
I'm a believer that if, when people are trying to do right, you got to help them.
Yeah.
And, are all the inmates trying to do right? No. I know I've been around long enough to know. But we have to do our part to give them an opportunity. They learn, if they're out working on this road crew, they learn how different job skills they might not have had before. If they're working at the senior center, they're learning how to cook. Right. I mean, every restaurant needs a cook, right?
Right.
Well, and if one of the officers are trying to help him or talking to him or whatever, it's kind of like a parent and a child. It doesn't have a whole lot of impact,
right?
Because you don't understand.
Sure.
And I kid to my wife, I said, "You've never been on the inside. You don't know what it's like." But when you're around your peers, in that community, the other inmates are become your peers. If you've got the vast majority of your inmates that are happy, that can actually have or satisfied, or that will have a positive impact on
a cascading effect
on all your inmates.
We teach a class called Moral Recognition, and it helps you do some self-reflection and understand why you are where you are. Excuse me. One of the questions they ask in that is, what decisions could you have made 10 years ago or 5 years ago? What decisions did you make that you could have done different that you might not have ended up where you are? And it kind of causes them to think, and that's a pretty good program, I think. It puts that self-reflection on the guys,
and that's tough.
Yeah.
And it's tough to look in the mirror and say, "Yeah, I messed up 10 years ago, and I made this choice, and now I'm here."
When they miss their kids' birthdays, they miss Christmas, and it's hard on the families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a job? Let's see. I'm trying to think of the right word. Once they serve their time in jail, they've had all the classes. Do you all help certain ones, or the ones that you think will benefit, find a job in Frankfort?
We try to be as fair with everybody, so everybody gets access to every resource that we have. We have what we call felon-friendly employers, and we have a list, and they have access to that. And certainly, we would encourage them to, you got to work.
Yeah, because I've seen companies around the country that that's all they hire is people that have served their time, to give them a second chance. And I learned under Sheriff Melton and you that everybody deserves a second chance.
Well, these, if you end up in jail, most likely you did what it took to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't want you to come back, we have to help you get the skills, get the experience, get the education, perhaps deal with an alcohol or drug issue. That is the government's function. We should do that. As a society, I think it's what we should do, unless you just want to see the same people come back over and over again. And to a degree, that's going to happen no matter what you do. But not everybody comes from the perfect two-parent family where mom and dad are in the home and their kids are their number one priority and they both have a job, and that's not a reality for everybody.
Yeah. Well, it's just, working with you guys in the past and, learning so much and seeing things that I had never seen before. It's pretty rough.
It gives you an appreciation for your circumstances.
And, the jail's got to be you're right. You got to be a special person to work in the jail.
A lot of sad stories in the jail. And, honestly, these people that are living in addiction, they're not the healthiest. They have all kinds of health problems, and a lot of bad life choices come home to roost when you're in jail.
And we cover, if they get sick in jail, we take them to the hospital and stuff like that, right?
Yes, they absolutely get good medical care. That, who pays for it is always a question, and that just depends. If they're a county inmate, that's straight out of our tax dollars.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a state inmate, then the state pays.
If they had an insurance plan themselves, does that
Yep, they
come
do
into
file.
play?
We do file if they have insurance.
Okay.
Yes, yep. We have a 24-hour medical care. We have a contract with a provider, so we have a nurse on site 24/7.
At the jail?
Yes, under the
Okay.
supervision of a doctor, and the doctor makes visits to the jail. We have dental care available. If you need specialized medical care, we either bring it to the jail or we take you to that. That's something that we
Do they do
routinely
the-
do. We do that on a weekly basis.
Do they do what's the doctor during coronavirus? Everybody did the doctor visits over the internet.
Telemed.
Telemed. Yeah.
Telehealth,
Do y'all do that?
We have done telehealth. We do a lot of virtual things like that because that's one good thing that came from COVID is we learned that we could do that. So we've done some court hearings. We've done adoption hearings. We've done parent-teacher conferences at times, things like that that are virtual so that we don't, things that we couldn't necessarily transport for, but we can get done.
Mm-hmm.
Do it that way.
Does the county have any kind of, and there may not even be anything that exists like this, insurance or anything, health insurance for the inmates? Like you and I would have some kind of health plan. Is there anything like that for jails?
Not that I'm aware of. We have a contract with the medical provider, so I guess that's kind of our version of that. So.
And that was kind of where my next question was going. I had a little heart issue and a blockage, and I got my EOB back, and the cost on that was $130,000.
Right.
The allowable by insurance was $29,000. If I didn't have insurance and nobody negotiating on my behalf, they would have sent me a bill for $130,000.
Sure. So that really is kind of how our medical contract works. My finance director could probably speak directly to that, the details of it, but that's all negotiated. The prices are negotiated.
So yeah, for the general, for the general audience out there, I guess the answer to the curiosity is you'd negotiate much like a insurance would.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you
And
pay those
that's
right.
done in advance. I mean, we have a
Sure.
cost pool and all that kind of stuff. So
So it helps contain the
Yeah,
cost.
through the DOC, they do a statewide kind of thing, I guess. Maybe
no, we do that through our
county government.
yes. It's a contract between fiscal court and our healthcare provider.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that businesses could do, like if a restaurant wanted to feed your staff one day?
Well, we love that.
How would they go about doing that?
If somebody wanted to bring pizzas to the jail,
I've done that before.
I know.
Be quiet.
High quality, tasty pizzas. Right?
Yeah,
high quality,
I have done that before.
the kind that you would find at Da Vinci's.
If other restaurants wanted to show appreciation for the work for the staff at the jail, who would they contact you?
Yeah, just contact me
or
directly. You
the
can
j-
reach me at the jail. I'm there every day, just about. I'm not every day on the weekend.
Have you memorized the number yet?
Yes.
What would the phone number
I
be?
can't give that out.
To the jail?
No, just call me directly.
Oh,
We get the jail.
so call me and I can get a hold of
the
you.
jail phone rings off the hook.
Oh, it
because
does?
Everybody has questions. They don't understand their court date. They don't understand this. They don't. It's
Gotcha.
Literally, it really rings off.
It would be hard to find it not busy.
Yes. Yeah.
So could they reach you through the sheriff's office?
Yes, they can leave me a message at the sheriff's office, or
Yeah, they could text me.
that's
and
875-8740.
yes, that's still the
All
same number.
All the girls are going to be mad at me at the office. Giving that number out.
If they called me, I could just relay the message onto you.
Sure, or stop by.
So if say John Center at Serafini's,
If
or Mike Hedden at Buddy's Pizza,
and Buddy's Pizza, if
No,
somebody
how about
wanted,
that? That's kind of head-to-head
or
competition.
Bee's Bakery wants to bring some donuts out
Donuts.
there, or
to thank an overworked, understaffed jail staff,
Taylor Bell could bring some ice cream out there.
I'm
'Cause-
going to look up our administrative line because I know.
okay, I was
think
talking
I-
with Taylor's dad yesterday. Well, I'll make this announcement. I'll do my own breaking news.
breaking news.
We're going to start selling Taylor Bell ice cream at Da Vinci's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 4-ounce cups. Yeah, I talked to John Cook yesterday about that, so he's going to bring some samples by.
Is she still trying to go to medical school?
I don't see how she's got time. She's
Originally, she started that.
everywhere.
Originally, she started that to pay for college tuition, and I think she had had aspired to be a doctor or a vet. I can't remember.
She got so many
And
colleges.
well,
John told me all the stuff she did. She has no time for nothing.
And
And
that's-
they opened a restaurant up.
Well, that's
in
kind of what
Lawrenceburg, and it's
what,
good.
what I was wondering, because that brand has become so successful.
Yeah. So you got the number there administratively,
Pretty
Ron?
sure it's 875. I can't talk to
Write this down there. Maybe we can put it on.
875-8782.
Okay.
And if that's wrong, I apologize in advance.
So if I started just calling up some of my restaurant buddies or something and said, hey, how many, let's see. No, I don't want to ask that question.
We have 3 shifts, so you'd be feeding 15 to 20.
Okay. Per shift?
No,
Okay.
I wish that'd be a dream.
Yeah.
We'd have the dorm open and we'd be
So fiscal court, that would be a dream to have that many staff.
Yeah.
So we could open the dorm, then those inmates could work Franklin County and help beautify this town.
So we got
What do you
Kyle.
think?
We got Kyle watching now.
Yeah, I
so-
know. I saw him come
So,
on.
so
Kyle said he knows the secret number.
here's something
He
I'm gonna
does now. Yeah.
I'm going to throw out that he'll take and run and make it his idea. Is
He does that a lot, doesn't
yes, he does.
Yeah.
He you're the only one he's ever given credit for anything publicly
he? Yeah,
between
he,
you and
yeah,
I.
he did that in the city commission
In the city
meeting.
commission meeting.
Yeah.
But if we can get the dorm and the Class D going again, think about the money that the city could save to get some of these projects done that you and I have talked about. That where does funding come from? Where do we get the budget to do all this? And you could exponentially drop the cost of that down.
So for SAP and SOAR, that's an additional $10 a day, either program that an inmate is in. If that program coordinator that's teaching it is a degreed person that has a degree, that's another $10 a day. All of a sudden, you're up to $55 a day. That's what the federal inmates pay. There's 96 beds. 96 times 55 times 365 is about 1.92 million.
You've done that math before.
I have. I'm good.
We were trying to do it on the fly the
I
other
was
day.
trying to
wasn't
do.
Well, I didn't get it right the other day, and it bothered me, so I had to
Yeah.
go back and actually
we
get the
were
exact
trying to do
numbers.
it on the fly in our head the other day.
Yeah, but that's not totally that there would be some cost for that revenue, but you would have to have program directors.
But essentially, it would pay for itself and offset some cost.
You would be able to you would reduce the taxpayer impact by about $1.9 million
Right.
a year, as my
Which would be about half.
About half, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
it's
two
not.
thirds to a half.
It's not a zero sum program. I mean, it's net cash positive for the jail.
Yes.
So-
And I don't, we're definitely not incarcerating for profit. We're
Right.
just trying to reduce the burden on the taxpayers.
And you wanna
this is
keep
a
them
need
busy.
anyway. They
Right.
need these programs. So,
And if we keep them busy, it's less stress on the staff.
yes. This would be kind of like a halfway house. The doors wouldn't lock. They could, if they wanted to just run off, there wouldn't be a lot to stop them. But
Yeah.
besides fear of consequences.
So if we could reach out to our magistrates and say, we see the potential of what the jail could be. If we invest a little now, it could be a lot down the road.
Right. Well, you have to look at the holistic picture, and I hate using the word holistic.
That's a
because,
big word.
Well, because people use it for so many other things. It's overused now, but we're kind of at a point where with a 38-year-old building that's obviously dilapidated, that has a lot of expensive systems that need to be maintained and fixed properly. Like to your point before we were on the air, you can't run to Home Depot and buy repair items for jail items.
In general, it's going to you need to use industrial grade stuff.
Right. And at 38 years old, for some of that stuff, some of the stuff may not be being made. You'd mentioned that some stuff has to be custom made locally. We're at a crossroad that we're either gonna have to get rid of a jail and stop that altogether, or at least invest in the jail to get it suitable and sustainable. And I would think that bringing that Class D program back would help in many ways to offset that burden for the taxpayer.
It would definitely. I mean, I really think it's a legitimate estimate of about 1.9 million. So that would be inmates that are waiting around the state to get in these programs. Inmates that we lost one yesterday to Shelby County because he got a bed in a SAP program.
Right.
And he got that because he wants to get treatment for his addiction, but it also takes time off his sentence. But there's a waiting list around the state to get in these programs. So
We just need the program.
we need the program, and we need the facility and the staff to run it.
Well, since Commissioner Thompson is watching right now, or he was, I'm assuming he still is.
Oh, he's not leaving now.
Yeah, I saw that there, and I didn't get a chance to read the article because I was doing research late, and maybe me and Eric can talk about this later. I think the county asked the city to go partners on a, what do you call them when they go out and they do road work? The guy that oversees them.
The
I guess basically
road superintendent.
I guess basically fund another deputy jailer, and the city said no. I'll have to find that article. Maybe me and Eric can
Are you
address
talking
that.
about the sanitation?
I don't know what it was. I just saw that it was they wanted to fund an employee would have cost about $50,000, and the
You
city.
talking about somebody that goes out with the inmates to
like-
make sure they don't take off?
Yeah, it just does the job.
That's
I'll have
previously.
to look at
Previously,
it
we've
more.
worked with the city on sanitation, and we've had inmates on sanitation trucks, and they were
Yeah.
supervised by. one
Kyle
of
said
our
it was
staff.
sanitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the city said no. Something
Well,
I don't know.
I think I can't speak to exactly.
I mean,
why.
the city's sitting on $18 million surplus. There's something that we could, I would say the majority, well, I don't have no idea. I have no idea if the majority of the inmates are in the city confines or the county confines, but the city's in the county.
About 50-50 in
yeah.
population, I would think. So.
Yeah. But, you know, if we could get the Class D dorm going, we could use the inmates because I'm assuming if I was in jail, I'd want to get out of jail at every opportunity to see daylight.
But the thing is, so in the past, we've kept that full of Class D inmates because Class D inmates were readily available, and that was all pre-COVID. So things have kind of changed. A lot of Class D inmates are just being warehoused in county jails, and they're not even going out to work. So it's very difficult. We have about, I'd have to count them, but I'm going to say around 24-ish Class Ds today. That's hard to keep. Sometimes we get down under, people get paroled, people get into another SAP program. So what I'm really talking about is in these programs. They would kind of take the place of the Class D program where it would be less of a work program. They wouldn't be going out to work. They'd be staying there in the dorm, getting, getting through the program of learning life skills and things.
So that's
like that.
done inside the jail.
That's done inside. You could do it in a dorm. It could be done in a jail. Other jails do it inside the jail. We don't have because they have to be kept separate from all the other inmates. We don't have the ability to do that. Just our facility is just not set up that way, so we couldn't do that. But we could legally fill the dorm because these guys are low-level offenders, so they could be in basically a halfway house that the jail runs.
Well, Kyle sent a question, or Commissioner Thompson. Would the jail need to contract for the SAP resources or handle in-house? I have no idea what he's talking about.
I think I understand the question. We would hire our own counselor, and then we would get the DOC approval for that program and get on their list, and we would have a contract with DOC for that SAP program and the SOAR program. And they're complementary. You have to graduate SAP to get into SOAR. So, we have 4 different dorms up there, so everybody it's in the same phase, is in the same dorm. And then when you graduate one phase, you would move another dorm, and then we'd be able to bring a new group of people that are just getting started in, and it kind of matriculates.
So jails are kind of transforming. You got the punishment of going to jail.
Yes.
But then they're sort of like halfway housing, trying to get them trained to get other skills or control their anger or whatever, so that the recidivism rate, we hope, drops. Is that is that along the lines of what's going on with jails right now?
If you have a SAP program, as we talked earlier, the vast majority of crime that we deal with in Franklin County is directly related to drug or alcohol abuse, some kind of substance abuse. I don't know what the numbers are, but it is very high.
Right.
So if we can help a person with their addiction and break that cycle, then obviously maybe they won't reoffend. And then when you graduate from the substance abuse, you go into SOAR, which helps you reintegrate into a society, how to maybe mend relationships with family, or a lot of these folks have kids that they miss and their relationships are broken. So the SOAR program can kind of help reintegrate them into going from a in custody environment to freedom, and that's kind of shocking. Some people don't make it a week, and they're right back in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Because that's all they're used to,
that's
or
all they know, and they don't. There's just a lot of pressure when you get out, especially if you've been a drug user. You're going to be right back around the same people. If you don't change your setting, the chances of you reoffending are really, really high. So these programs help with stuff like that. And that to me is the most important thing. I think it makes society better, but at the same time, it is a revenue generator, and it's directly related to the problems we're dealing with anyway. So,
but if they take pride in their community, pride in the work, their skills that they learn, that could help them start. I mean, they could start their own business, start their own landscaping business or something.
There are some success stories out there, so that's what we would be hoping for.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves a second chance, and if we can help them, then that makes society a better place.
On your sheriff's hat now, have you seen, is crime holding steady, going, because we're out of coronavirus now?
It's crazy, really. It
Because
seems
the jail population, I told Commissioner Thompson what the jail population was Monday, and he said, nope, that ain't right. So I confirmed. That's why I called you Monday night.
right.
And you've read it off again. So 128 county residents today, county inmates today, out of a total of 227 total population.
That was as of about 4:15 today.
As of 4:15, Commissioner Thompson. So that's for you.
It's low. It's very low.
Because we're normally around 300, which is normal sucks.
I've been doing some research recently, and I know that over the last 3 years, our average is 330.
330, okay. Would it do any good to show those charts?
I mean, you're certainly, there's no reason that I know of not to show them. This gives you a breakdown. This is my dashboard that I check every day. Gives you an idea of how many inmates we have. I don't know why breakdown by race is featured right there in the middle, but that's the software that we use.
Mm-hmm.
It's broken down by gender. It's broken down by incarceration.
So it's mostly
status.
males, correct?
Yes, we have. Yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
We have
188 is it 48?
That's probably correct. Yeah.
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 And then there was another one, Eric.
This is your average monthly population for the past 12 months. So we're holding pretty steady right around here, which is about 100 less than it was the last few years.
And that's a good thing, right?
Well, I would say so.
Seeing that chart is one of the few charts where it goes downhill.
Which is good.
That's a good thing.
I personally can't explain why, but that is, we have less people incarcerated, so that must be a good thing.
Yeah, so it looks like we're holding steady around the 250 mark.
I would say yes, this month or this year.
It looks like for the last,
Probably
7 to 8 months or so.
That's about right. But I did some, at the request of fiscal court, I've been doing some research, and I think over the last 3 years, 2 or 3 years, it's 330 is a good number to base it on.
That's good.
Yeah, that might be right, Kyle, but I'm not going to talk about it. He said it's a little snarky thing. But I think that's answered all my jail questions for what we got. Learned a lot.
Absolutely.
I like the idea. Well, if we had, are there more inmates that could do work outside of the jail, but we don't have staff to take them outside of the jail?
It's not really the staff as much as we don't have the physical place inside the jail to put them right now.
Mm-hmm.
If we had the dorm open, the best way to fill that dorm is with SAP and SOAR and not Class D as a work program.
Okay.
Most of these guys are in the Class D program, but they would be coming there strictly for drug abuse prevention or substance abuse prevention.
And you'd want to keep them busy.
There's plenty to keep them busy. They got to maintain their own area. They have class every day. They don't, it's not not everybody graduates. Some people get in there and go, it's just too hard. I'll go back to prison and try to make parole.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot of checks and balances in SAP. They really are held accountable, and some people just won't do it because it's too hard,
Right.
even though it takes time off their sentence.
But bottom line is we need more staff at the jail, and we need even more of a bottom line. We need to increase their pay greatly.
Every issue at the jail is directly related to the staff. Even some of the facility issues, as far as the infrastructure, have to have the staff to protect it and to monitor it, to clean it, to maintain it. And we need to be more competitive. Everybody in corrections is competing for the same pool of people that are willing to do the job,
Right.
and that are willing and able. So
Well, if we
we
could
need to be
get,
competitive.
because there's such a small amount of people in the grand scheme of things, and it's if we could get them a 50% raise to get them to 25 or 26 an hour, would you have trouble hiring more on to get to your complement of 48? Because 48 at 25 an hour for the job that they do, that's nothing.
Well, we haven't broken 40 in so long that no one can remember.
Or
so
get to
I don't
40.
know.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's. I would love to try. I would love to have that opportunity to try to. I understand that county government is difficult. The budget is difficult. Everybody is advocating for their people, and everybody feels like their agency.
But this is
their
crime.
division.
This is crime.
Well, it's my job to advocate for the jail. So that's
but it's crime, and if you want to get them through all these programs, boy, it's just a big old domino effect. You got the staff, you can provide the training to the inmates to hope they don't to lower their recidivism rate and benefit the county in some areas at the same time, and have a good staff, and getting them an $8 an hour raise for 30 people. I would not think that would be too big a hit on the county budget.
Well, I'll leave that up to fiscal court.
That's why I'm saying. I'm just straight looking at the numbers.
Right.
If you give $50,000 to this group, $50,000 to that group for whatever it is they're doing, $25,000 to pull weeds out on some fence somewhere, I think we could redirect some of that money to the jail to increase the salaries, to get better staff, retain what we got, and benefit Franklin County.
I'll say this. I don't think the need for the jail or a jail is going to go away, regardless of what direction that people decide to go. The people are going to get arrested, and people are going to get incarcerated, and the county's going to be on the hook for that. So my opinion is the best thing to do is invest now in the facility that you have and keep it as nice as you can, because the alternative is crazy expensive. And the best way to do that is to invest in staff, so that instead of having somebody, that's supervising a shift that's got 9 months experience, years ago it would take you 10 years to be a supervisor. Now it's 10 months, maybe not that.
God.
So
You just have to be the last person standing.
that's, it's hard to argue with that.
So that list of 6 things that need to be repaired that the sheriff asked for,
Yes.
will that be presented to fiscal court in a meeting, or will y'all just drop it off and say, hey, these are some things we're going to do. We're going to need your help on some of them?
I've forwarded that to the sheriff at his request. I'm sure he will share it with the court in the manner that he sees most beneficial.
Very diplomatic, Ron.
But I don't know his plan on that, so I work for him. I know that he has been very interested in the project from the beginning. He didn't really ask for this responsibility, but he has taken it on and has been a very important part of everything that we've done, because he's been interested when it comes to repairs and things like that. He wants things to work. He wants all the equipment to be in first-rate shape. That's just kind of how it is. So,
Well, if you spend money to repair it, a real-world example, when I went to fleet management, our maintenance budget on state vehicles was $4 million a year. Well, every car was 8 years old. And statute says they can't be more than 5. So we got them all. We got like 98% of them under 5 years old. Our maintenance budget went from a little over like $4.2 million to $1.1 million because everything was under warranty.
sure.
So if you fix it and maintain it, and I did the same thing on my apartment buildings. I gutted them, spent the money early, but for the next 10 years, I didn't have to repair nothing.
You have to invest in your facility, and you have to invest in your people. That's definitely. I definitely feel strongly about that.
Yep, you have to invest in the people, and you got to take care of the things that you have.
Absolutely.
That's the 2 things that that will help ensure success more than anything.
So this was really interesting. We're
It
at
was. We're at our time. I'm gonna have to cut Craig off here.
but we
promised Ron about an hour. Here we are.
hour
and 20.
15. I said about hour and 15. As things go along, as you get more invested in this, maybe up to all the way to next November, would you come on and talk about the jail some more so we can really get the word out on how it could benefit, how it is definitely helping people?
I'd be glad to.
Okay.
I think it's.
But I think
important
it'll
to
give
know
us
what-
enough time to impact change. Give you enough time, you and Sheriff Quire, enough time to impact some change in the jail with the dilapidated facilities, the repairs that are needed, and I think it'd be a good opportunity for a good update.
Yeah.
I'm in. Just let me know.
All right, brother. I appreciate it.
Anything else you want to mention before we cut out?
I think we've covered it pretty well.
You just want to say Sheriff Quire's great and he's an awesome guy and
He's
all
a
that
great
stuff.
boss. I will say that.
Yeah.
I'm retired. I don't have to do this. I do it because I want to.
That's correct. You're right.
Glad,
Yes.
Glad to be part of his team.
Yeah, you're still serving the citizens of Central Kentucky
I had to say,
after retirement and a
pleasure.
good career.
people on the right side of the law normally don't have any problem with Sheriff Quire.
Right.
And Ron is one of my most favorite people on planet Earth. I will say that for sure.
He waited till the end to say that, didn't
Yeah, he did.
Hey,
Very
but at
much.
least I said it.
he? I appreciate it.
All right. Well, we'll cut out of here for now, and thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll catch you all next time.